Hello, I'm Ron Mackey coming to you again from the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, with a ninth reading from my book, Parenting the Bottom Line. And I will not read the state statutes because that will be boring for you. But if you'd like to look at those as I list them, you can just Google them yourself, okay? So I'll begin on page 58, the middle of the page. The state of Michigan spanking law states that parent, guardian, other person permitted by law can reasonably discipline a child, including the use of reasonable force. The state of Arkansas specifically defines in its law the difference between spanking and child abuse by stating that abuse does not include physical discipline of a child if reasonable and moderate, and inflicted by a parent or guardian for restraining or correcting a child. Listed as not reasonable or moderate for correcting or restraining is throwing, kicking, burning, biting, cutting, striking with a closed fist, shaking a child under 3, striking, or other actions which result in any non-accidental injury to a child less than 18 months, interfering with a child's breathing, threatening a child with a deadly weapon, striking a child in the face, or any other act that is likely to cause bodily harm greater than transient pain or minor temporary marks. The statute states this as an illustrative and not an exclusive list. Age, size, and condition of the child, and the location of the injury, and frequency or recurrence of injuries shall be considered in determining reasonable or moderate. Parent, teacher, guardian, other care and supervision of a minor may use reasonable and appropriate physical force when and to the extent reasonably necessary to maintain discipline or promote the welfare of the child. As the statute continues, if the belief that the force is necessary is a reckless or negligent belief, then the above offers no defense to a crime if the culpability of that crime is proven by showing recklessness or negligence. Justification is not available if the person recklessly or negligently injured or created a substantial risk of injury to a person. As previously stated, some of the 50 states begin the law with what abuse is, then specifies what abuse is not. Texas law, that's Adrian Peterson's state, concerning corporal punishment states that abuse does not include reasonable discipline by a parent, guardian, managing, or possessory conservator if child is not exposed to substantial risk of harm. And that's in the family code section. It goes on to state that a parent, step-parent, parent person, standing in loco parentis, which means in place of parent, to child is justified to use non-deadly force against a child under 18 years of age, when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes necessary to discipline or safeguard or promote child's welfare. Now I could list the entire 50 states and their statutes concerning spanking and corporal punishment, but that would be very time-consuming as well as very boring to the reader. But the statutes I listed was to prove that the laws of the land are on the side of parental rights when it comes to discipline and their children, and stands on the side of children when it comes to child abuse against them. I only list one more state statute concerning spanking for good measure. The state of Utah, corporal punishment statute is very simple, which states force is justified if used for reasonable discipline of a minor by parent, guardian person standing parento loco parentis. So I asked the question, where in any of these state statutes that are listed do you find a prohibition against spanking a child for purposes of correction and discipline? And I also found that in 1997, a survey pointed out that 65% of Americans approved spanking, and not much less than 75% who did so in 1946. Now, even though the state of California, along with all the rest of the United States, have laws on the books approving the spanking of children as a form of discipline, it has been reported by the news media that California Assemblywoman Sally Lieber, a Democrat representing Mountain View, California, planned to give California parents a lesson in parenting, whether they like it or not. She announced in January 25th, 2007, that she would introduce a bill that would outlaw the spanking of children under the age of 4 years old by their parents. She seemed to believe that banning spanking in such a way is a logical continuation of laws that banned slavery and protected children from being beaten by their husbands. Women from being beaten by their husbands. It is said that under the new law, if passed, parents caught spanking their child could face up to 1 year in jail or a $1,000 fine. Many believe that this bill would run out of gas because there have been similar bills attempted before in California, Massachusetts, and Wisconsin, and have failed amid criticism that they would be unenforceable. This bill did go down in flames. Now, such nonsense bids a question to be asked. Are people so insecure in their ability as parents that they would have the state government take over their parenting role of disciplining their children? This act by the Assembly Speaker Pro Tem had caused such a public reaction by her announcement that she was swamped with requests for national media interviews, according to her staff. But of course, there were supporters who agreed with her and were promoting the notion that a slap on the rear of children could cause irreparable harm to them. I might also add the fact that because parents have been so negligent in the area of parental guidance and discipline, there are 22 states that have reintroduced corporal punishment in the public school system after being banned in most states. And state law allows those teachers and administrators to paddle children in order to maintain classroom discipline. The list of 22 states where corporal punishment is legal are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming. Now, concerning corporal punishment in schools, it was reported that in 2006-2007 school year, an overall 233,190 school-aged children in the United States were subjected to physical punishment. And this was a significant drop of almost 18% and continuing a steady trend from the early 1980s. It must be said that even though corporal punishment is permitted in schools by law in 22 of the 50 states, there are a list of 9 regulations that are required in order to administer corporal punishment. These regulations are listed as follows. Number 1, corporal punishment must be done in a fair, reasonable, and impartial manner. Number 2, students must be forewarned that a specific behavior will result in corporal punishment. Number 3, student must be given opportunity to explain his or her actions. Number 4, corporal punishment must be administered in the company of professional staff notified beforehand. Number 5, it must be used only after other punishment have failed. Number 6, procedures specified do not apply if the behavior is so blatant, disruptive, antisocial, or flagrant in nature as to shock the conscience. Number 7, teachers and principals must keep written records specifying when and why the punishment was administered. Number 8, if parents request a copy of written explanation, the principal must provide it. Number 9, Principals must hold each member of his staff accountable for understanding the regulations and administering corporal punishment. Now, some of these schools, parents have the option of forbidding the use of corporal punishment, but very few parents ever do. In order to show how important learning, order, and discipline is to school administrators, I found that states such as Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, and Texas, along with 4 other states, provide teachers with immunity from civil and criminal punishment or prosecution for using corporal punishment, and order other school systems to provide legal support, as well as support in pressing criminal charges against any student who might attack a teacher. It is interesting to find in my research that many outside the United States have a different attitude about spanking than those inside the U.S. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette posted a story concerning corporal punishment on May 30th, 1997, with the heading, "Denmark Law Bans Parents Spanking Kids." The article stated that Denmark joined its Nordic neighbors Wednesday in prohibiting parents from spanking their children or using other kinds of corporal punishment. Now I'm going to stop right there, and I'll begin with page 66 the next time we meet. If you're interested in anything else about parenting the bottom line, you can Google it, and you'll see all that you need to know. You can also look at the other videos that I posted so far under Parenting the Bottom Line from number 1 to number 8 reading. So I thank you for joining in on YouTube for Parenting the Bottom Line. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.